Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I am going to be talking with my old friend. Maybe I shouldn't say old friend, my good friend, Big Jeff. Uh,
Your old good friend.
my old good friend. It's a bit,
If the
you know,
shoe fits.
anyway, thanks for joining me today, Big Jeff. It's great to see you. It's been quite a few months since we spoke, so thanks for joining me today.
Hey Jeff, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back. It's always good to re-engage with an old buddy who has so many common interests. Uh, I've been a bit busy over these last few months. I've actually retired from work in the interim. That's a surprisingly busy and sort of stressful kind of process, much more stressful than you'd expect, right? You'd think as you were sort of riding off into the sunset that it's all rainbows and unicorns, but there's a lot of stressful activity that goes on, with financial planning and trying to get your bills right and making sure your money's going to come in the month and health insurance, and it's just it is quite it can be for some people anyway a bit of a stressful ordeal to retire. And I really haven't had a not busy day yet in the past few months. So, it does seem like I'm over that retirement hump, if you will, and looking forward to engaging with my friends again, like I used to be able to. So, thanks for the invite.
My first question was going to ask you about retirement, but maybe we'll get into that in just a little bit, and we'll dig into your retirement a little bit more. I have some questions.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm ever going to retire. You know, in these interviews, I like to ask some questionnaires just to kind of break the ice, and so I am prepared to ask you just kind of some light questions. You don't have to take it too seriously. You can defer if you don't want to answer the question. And so the first one that I like of the Stephen Colbert questionnaire is, what is the best sandwich?
What's the best sandwich? Oh, I always see when I go out and there's a sandwich to be had. I always end up getting the Reuben sandwich.
Oh, the Reuben.
I'm not sure
That's a
why
good.
that is. The Reuben, yeah, corned beef. Got to be corned beef Reuben, and it's got to be the rye bread, and it's got to have
Absolutely. Little
some type of
mustard,
spicy mustard and
Dijon,
Swiss cheese.
and
Dijon,
Swiss
yes,
cheese.
spicier the
Yeah.
better, and Swiss cheese. I I don't want a little bit of corned beef. I want it to be a challenge to. It's gonna be a lot. So
Well, one of
that's what kind of I always end up getting. I don't know why I'm drawn to that sandwich, but my wife pointed it out to me once. She said, "I knew you were gonna get the Reuben," and I was like, how'd you know that?" And she said, "You always get
you
the
always
Reuben." And I
get.
said, "Do I?" She does, and she's right. I do, but to me, I'm like scouring the menu, and this one is always the one that pops up. I don't know what it is about corned beef that I like so much. I mean, it's actually kind of nasty if you like cook it for say and see it in the pan like all stewing in its own fat. That's kind of
And,
nasty.
and you
But it
got to
tastes
have
so
a little
good.
bit of sauerkraut on there. Is that right? A little bit of
Oh
kraut.
yeah, yes, absolutely. Yep, a little bit of kraut. Yep, not too much to make it soggy, right? We don't want the rye bread getting soggy.
No, 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 no,
It's
no, no,
going to be
no.
nice and crisp.
See what you think. One of the things that I do when I go out to a restaurant is I order food that I can't make at home. And maybe that's part of it, Big Jeff. It's not something
Yeah.
you would make at home, right?
Yeah, it's not. I never have corned beef, and it's hard. It's hard to get that sandwich shop consistency and taste of that
Mhm.
sandwich right at home. So I think that's a good point.
Okay, next question. What's one thing that you really should just throw out and don't say the leg lamp?
One thing that I ought to throw. Oh my God, I could probably go into my garage and look up. In my garage, I have like the shelf of stuff that I know is going to be useful someday. But I
Hmm.
could probably clear out all three of the shelves that I have that I built in my garage for stuff, and not even miss it. There's this one cooler that I really want to throw out. I mean, it's we've had it since my daughter was in U12 baseball. She's 23 now,
Okay.
and so it's older than some people's children that probably watch this show. And we take it out maybe once every 2 years, and it's one of these giant ones, and it's just taking up space, and we should just throw the damn thing out.
Scariest animal?
Snake.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. You know, one of the things that we enjoy here is and I think this came up when I interviewed Jack, is that there's no snakes here in Hawaii.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, no snakes here, and we have so many mongoose that if one of them got here, I think the mongoose would take care of it pretty quickly. So we're very
Oh, good.
lucky. Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph, Big Jeff?
Yes, when I was young, we had a writing letter writing thing as a third, fourth, fifth grade, something like that project. And a lot of the boys especially wrote to the sports teams to ask for an autograph for their favorite player. And I think it was probably 1975. I wrote to the Boston Red Sox and asked for Fred Lynn's autograph. I don't know if you remember Fred Lynn, but he made quite a splash as a rookie in the Boston Red Sox organization. And he was just an outstanding hitter and fielder. Who kind of he was a little bit, turned out in his major league career, he's a little bit frail. He was always getting hurt. But when he was a rookie, he was outstanding. Little kids, love that kind of play. I wrote to Fred Lynn for his autograph, and he actually sent it back on a postcard. I don't know whether it was him that actually signed it, but I used to have it up in my room on a cork board.
What do you think happens when we die, Big Jeff?
I believe there's something more after we die. It's too much for me to believe that this is all just a giant cosmic accident. I believe there's a grander plan.
Another plane of existence, or
it could be, higher plane of existence. I'd like to believe it's comforting for me to believe that that there is a God, that that conscience and morality is derived from that, and that that there is such a thing as evil, and evil should be defeated and conquered, and repressed at every opportunity, and it's sort of a moral obligation to do that.
Favorite action movie, Big Jeff? What is it? And why is it Die
Hard?
Wow. Just kidding.
action movies. Is The Godfather an action movie?
I don't think so. If you wanna push it through, I would let you, but I don't think The Godfather is an action movie. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. It's your favorite movie?
That's certainly my favorite movie. That's my favorite movie. It's The Godfather. Right. Yep. I mean, there's something in that movie where you find yourself at the end of that, sometime in the middle of that movie, you find yourself sort of rooting for the main character to be able to make it through. But the trials and tribulations that he's facing, right? And that guy is not worth rooting for, right? It's the brilliance of that movie. Is that you've somehow found some likability in that guy. Yeah.
All right. Favorite smell?
Apple pie.
Oh, apple theme. Least favorite smell?
Least favorite smell. Oh my God! I just emptied the trash.
There you go.
Trash smelled pretty bad. Like when you have lobster or clam. I'm from New England, right? So we love our shellfish in New England.
Flat or sparkling water?
Flat.
Ooh,
I prefer when I have water. I actually prefer like the spray, the Mios. You know what I'm talking about? I can go get one, but it's like the spray. It's the spray that you put in to flavor it.
If you had one song to listen to for the rest of your life, it's not on repeat. You can turn it off when you want. You've only got one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What song? I mean, and if you really want to twist my arm, we could say a whole album. Like, I'll go that far, but if you can zero in on one song.
Oh, Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. Shout out to Dark Side of the Moon if you're in the chat.
Yes, great.
Yeah, I got that album when I was a kid, and I listened to it until it just about melted. I would agree with you.
I love that album. One song would be hard to pick. I might go with something by Led Zeppelin. I might go like Stairway to Heaven.
Do you have a favorite word?
No. And I don't mean no is my favorite word, but I don't really have a word that I use all the time.
Well, that's not good for the improv class if you take in your
Okay, well,
retirement.
all right, how about embryonic?
Embryonic. Okay, all right, I
I
like
used to
that.
use that word at work a lot because it's a when I was working, we used to have to find nice ways to criticize certain ideas that people
Ah,
would come up with, and
a little
embryonic.
embryonic. It needs a little
A
bit
little
of
embryonic.
development.
Right. It's a little bit. It's underbaked as yet. Right. It's not quite
Under
ready for
yes,
prime
yes.
time.
Least favorite word? Do you have one?
Can't.
Can't.
I can't stand when people tell me I can't.
Do you have a favorite
And
curse word?
I try not to curse, even though I just
Okay.
did. No, I don't have a favorite, and I should, usually unless we're talking about Ken Kratz, I try and I try and keep it under control. But I don't. I'm not one who, when you talk to me out, that I'm not one that curses every 10 seconds.
What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? Wow. Well, when I was my kids were younger, I always used to really like to look forward to coming home from work and having them say, "Hey, Daddy, Daddy." That was one of my favorite sounds.
I believe that there are perfect movies. It might not be your favorite movie. It might not, but Jaws is a perfect movie. I think
It
that.
is.
Do you have another example of Oh, you're already going to tell me. Your perfect movie is the same one as the one I already asked you, and that is The Godfather. You have another perfect
That's
movie?
right. It is. That's kind of a movie that if you're channel surfing and you don't know what's on and you land on it, you stop and watch it no matter what.
Sure.
Um,
A Christmas Story, is that a perfect movie?
Christmas Story, yeah, I love that's a great movie. I do
Yeah.
love that movie because it does, it reminds you of a time past when Ralphie says at the end of the movie, he talks about his the gun is Red Ryder BB, which I have one of those too, a Red Ryder BB gun, and he said it's the best gift I ever got or ever would get.
So you mentioned that you just recently retired, Big Jeff, but what profession other than the one you did would you like to attempt? If you could have done it all over again, what's something that you maybe would have considered doing?
Well, my degree is in electrical engineering, and so I focused on digital communications for my career, and I always had my eye on biomedical engineering, and would have liked to have done something in that field. And I did a little bit of work in graduate school on a biomedical project, but not not really enough to to sink my teeth into. And I think that with biomedical engineering, which is, look at the machines that we have nowadays that you can attach, to people and get, images of what's going on inside of them. I had an eye doctor's appointment earlier today, and, they had this thing that took pictures of the back of your eye so they could diagnose over time. That type of machinery is really developed by biomedical engineers in concert with physicians, right? The physicians say what they want to be able to see, but it's the biomedical engineers that really bring that technology to life. And really, in a lot of ways, given the complex sensing equipment that they use, it's a very complicated job, and in what I would call digital signal processing, to be able to resolve the signals that they use to sense back into an understandable image, and that's something that I always wanted to. That I sort of wished I dipped my toe into a little bit better, because think of all the people that you can help.
And then what profession would you not like to do ever? You're like, this is not for me, definitely.
Would I not like to do? I'm glad people do it, but I think I probably would have been beat down by manual labor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last question for our questionnaire, and it kind of goes back to what happens after we die, and that is, If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates, Big Jeff?
You did your best.
Ooh,
I see that
nice.
you did your best.
All right, so that concludes the first portion of the interview. Glad that you took the time to answer those questions. We really got to know you, Big Jeff. You know, we did our podcast discussing a murderer for over a year. Gosh, we did that for quite a long time, and
almost 2, right?
I think almost 2 years. And so, but we didn't have a lot of time to get to know each other. So I'm glad that we got a chance to converse a little bit and understand each other a little bit more. I wanted to ask you next about, let's dig into this retirement idea a little bit more. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with all this free time that is not going to be so free?
Right. There's free. There's free has a lot of baggage, right? Free means that it could be that I have available time, and free could also mean that the things I do don't cost anything. Neither of which is true. It's amazingly stressful when you go through retirement. I'm not sure. Did we talk about this when we turned the podcast on? I can't even remember. We had a little bit of discussion before, but it's surprisingly stressful to go into retirement. You always have to ask yourself, do I really have enough money to do it? I can't leave my family in a lurch, right? I can't just retire and I have my older 2 children. I only have 2 kids. They both still live with me. My oldest daughter is 23, and my youngest just turned 21. They're on their way, but kids are staying with their parents longer and longer. I can't really leave them in a lurch. Is it the right time to do that? Are the finances right? And I think one of the most stressful questions that you have to kind of ask yourself is, how long are you going to live, right? Because you have to plan your retirement out to a certain time in life, and I guess what the number they tend to use now is 91. If you're not going to live to 91, then you can spend more money. But they like to plan. They like to plan it such that you have a consistent income, from the time you retire, and it has to. When I say consistent, right, they adjust it for inflation at a certain rate, right? And who knows what inflation is going to be next year or the year after? Do I really want to? What's the right way to put it? Not
burn
spend
your last time on your last day,
That'd be nice if you could do it like that. But the thing is, I guess I'm more saying, do I want to sort of short myself in my 60s so that I have more money to do things in my 80s?
Right.
And I think the answer to that is no. Not that I've had any conscious plans like that yet, but knowing my parents, I mean, my mom is going to turn 80 this year. She lives in Florida. I think I've said I can't get her on a damn plane. You know what I mean? She stays in her house. Her knees are bad. She's afraid to go to go for a walk in the park because she's afraid she's going to fall.
Oh Lord!
You don't need as much money when you're 80 as you do retire as soon as you can and live the life that you want to live and do things that get the traveling that you want to get in. That was my sort of analysis from this whole retirement equation is do the things that you want to do while you still can, because you can't always. I have a friend named Scott who married a Japanese girl, and her father owned a plastic company, like a molding company, and he's gone, and her mother is still alive. She's got all the money you could want, right? But you can't get her on a plane to come see her grandchildren because her knees hurt too much, right? She's late 70s as well.
My mother used to say this. She said, "I'm like potato salad. I don't travel well."
Yeah. I'm also convinced that just because you're old doesn't mean you don't want to do those things. I think you still long to do those things. That you see the younger people do it and you look at them and they're looking at you and saying, damn, I wish I could do that, but I know that I can't. So just be content, with what I have. But there's still things I want to do and I want to be able to do them while I'm still, able-bodied enough to enjoy them. And I'm at an age where, I'm going to be 60. My dad, he was in a lot better shape than I was when he was my age. He was in better shape than me, right? And by the time he turned 75, he could almost shoot his age when he was in his early 70s on the golf course. He was a really good golfer. And by the time he was 75 years old, he's like, he gets to the top of my backswing, and I get dizzy and feel like I'm going to fall over. Right? Doesn't that sound like an old person thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
He couldn't enjoy golf anymore, and had ambulatory issues. We are our parents, whether we like it or not, especially when it comes to the frailties of the body. So enjoy it while you can, right? If you've got it, use it, and do what you can when you can, because that time might be over before you know it.
And there is no guarantee that you get it tomorrow.
That's right.
So you brought up travel you just mentioned travel. Any kind of places that you want to travel to, or do you have any destinations plotted?
Yeah. Well, we are planning on taking a vacation this summer down to the Jersey Shore, but my sister has a house down there, so we're going to enjoy that we'll be down there the first week of August. But I think more two places I really would love to hit. One is Italy. I would love to see Rome. I would love to see all the statue, the fountain tour that they talk about, the Da Vinci Code, the art, the museums, definitely I need to see the Colosseum. It's on my bucket list. Just the engineering that went into the Colosseum. They used to flood it and have naval battles in it. It's unbelievable what they did, and how they must have built that back 2,000 plus years ago. I also need to hit Australia. Running into so many Aussies in the Making a Murder community. I've really come to respect the kind of fun-loving and easy-going people that they are, and really would love to see Australia and sort of get shown around by some of those people, because I really come to consider myself very good friends with many of them over the years.
Absolutely. If you do go to Italy, I would recommend make sure that you go to Tuscany. I have an affinity to Tuscany. Everybody kind of like has, people who study history or interested in history, they kind of have like a civilization that they're really interested in. And mine is the Etruscans. The Etruscans were from the Tuscany region. You can hear that the words are very similar. The Etruscans were like the precursor to Rome. So the Romans kind of stole a lot of their, influenced by the Etruscans, and then eventually kind of took them over and became one. But in the area of Tuscany, I think this is correct, that the people who live in that region have one of the longest bloodlines in the same region. So which means that the people that live there, their ancestors have lived there longer than any place else in the world. So you can trace their ancestors back and back and back. And so and it's also one of the most beautiful places that you can visit. So I'm with you on Italy. I gotta check out more Europe. I've only been to Northern Europe. I would love to check out Italy and France and Romania would be, definitely on my list of things.
One of those Viking cruises that kind of hits all those different places would be
fun. Nice. That might be fun. So any documentaries? I think I mentioned to you earlier that I started doing a documentary show where we're documentary club, where we're talking about documentaries. Any good documentaries that you've seen recently?
I watched this one on Netflix I think it was called Our Father. And it is about this this doctor who does artificial inseminations, and they begin to find out that he's actually injecting these women with his own semen.
Oh Lord!
And as you go through the documentary, you start to get an idea of how many women he actually did this to, and how many children this guy actually has, and that number is. I won't say it, so I don't want to ruin it for anybody, because but when you see that number, you're going to be like, no, it's unbelievable, and evidently he's got some. It's been a little bit since I've seen it. He's got some medical issues, and he's passing these medical issues on to the kids right now on the same medical issue.
We'll switch gears a little bit. Emerging technology. I know that you've been involved in technology in your work, and it's something that you're familiar with. Any emerging technologies that are really interesting to you? Also, we'll talk about artificial intelligence if you have a minute, but anything that's coming down the pike that's really interesting to you?
Well, I'm kind of a geekazoid when it comes to that. It's funny that in things like math and technology, it's very often the problems that are most simply stated that are the hardest ones to solve. I think that one of the things that I focused on my career on was how we manage the RF spectrum is actually a surprisingly challenging problem. Like when a lot of people don't even know what it is, right? So what's your favorite FM radio station, for example?
I don't have one. I'm sorry.
Can you name anyone?
94.5. I don't know.
So at 94.5, what is, what that number is? 94.5. So that number 94.5 means that station broadcasts on a frequency of 94.5 megahertz.
Okay.
And that is a point on the RF spectrum. In order for you to receive that radio station interference free, then there can't be any other transmission at that frequency, sort of within the bandwidth of operation, as you might say. And they will pretty much have sole broadcast use of that over some geographic area. Well, it turns out that there's a literally ginormous number of systems that consume or that you call spectrum. Consume is really the wrong word. That utilize the RF spectrum. And that could be things like satellite communications, your cell phone, television broadcasts, Wi-Fi, all manner of sensing technology, GPS signals that are sent down. The RF spectrum is full literally from DC to daylight, as they say. But there's new businesses that are emerging that need new spectrum, right? I mean, one of the biggest things recently has been 5G, right? I know quite a bit about 5G because is something whose emergence has required the creation of new spectrum space to operate. In order to do that, then some things have to be sort of pushed out, or the spectrum has to be shared between two different possible systems. That's an extremely hard problem to pull off because of the various sensitivities. Like potentially when you're talking about how you share that with share spectrum between something like a 5G cellular system and say a DoD radar, that's a tremendously hard problem to solve. That's one of the problems that's actually in the specifically articulated in the I'll call it the presidential directives for lack of the correct term. But yeah, it's something that the White House itself is very interested in figuring out how to do. because national success. The U.S. is a little bit behind the curve in cellular these days, surprisingly. Not by utilizing it, but if you look at all the cell phones, they're not made in the U.S. The cell towers aren't made in the U.S. The core networks aren't made in the U.S. We'd like to regain our dominance in cellular, and in order to be able to do that, right, you have to have a successful 5G. So success in 5G is a matter of national security and national economic security, right? We don't want the Chinese to own everything. They'll spy on us through the cell phones if they own that. we don't want
5G. I'm not quite sure how it operates, but is 5G like as strong as a Wi-Fi signal? Like if you were to compare the two, or what does 5G give me that 4G doesn't?
Access to high bandwidth applications is really the answer to that question, right? So that if you think about the Gs themselves, the sort of the rule of thumb is you get a new G every 10 years.
Okay.
So 4G was 2010 and 5G was 2020, and people are already talking about 6G, but 6G is not supposed to be on the scene until 2030.
Okay.
Really what they're trying to do is you could march through the G's and you could say that 1G wasn't even really a thing. 2G was a sort of a quest for a service. 3G was a request for customers. 4G was a quest for capacity, right? 4G is typically where we mark the evolution of the smartphone. And the ability to have as much data held in your hand as you used to have on a computer through a fixed internet, right? Through a Wi-Fi. It's not 100% fair to compare cellular to Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is really a fixed service, and cellular is a mobile service. So cellular's got to work in your car. So you make some trade-offs to get it to work into your car. So people say, Wi-Fi signal is better than cellular signal because you can get higher data rate through it. Well, you don't really think about using Wi-Fi in your car, so that's the reason why it's a little bit more robust of a signal if that's what you've heard. But really, what I'm trying to do at the end of the day with cellular is to utilize higher frequencies to be able to have a single user. And there's Mr. Marley trying to weigh in on the podcast. Because really, what the thought is that as we go through time, the user is going to require more and more access to data, to higher speed data. And actually, there's three prongs to 5G. One is what they call advanced mobile broadband. That's higher access to data. Another one is what they call massive Internet of Things. That everything is going to be have its own IP address and be networked. Your refrigerator, your toaster, they'll all have the individual pieces of your car engine. They'll all have on your engine itself. Everything will be on that, and so massive Internet of Things (MIoT) is the second prong. The third prong is ultra reliable, low latency communications, URLLC, which is how can I make the cell phone work, say, fast enough to handle driverless cars, right? So in order for cars to be able to communicate at the speeds that they operate at, to be able to communicate with each other to do things like collision avoidance, you need extremely low latency stuff. And if you've ever played a video game and not had like say your Xbox or something like that, and you didn't have it had a lot of latency built into your controller. It means when you press the button, the guy doesn't really act, jump or whatever. If it's Mario, like in a Mario game, he doesn't jump right when you press the button. He jumps a little bit after you press the button. That's because of latency. So right. You can't, if you're trying to do something like that and have driverless cars, well, they can't afford that latency because it's not about where the car is; it's about where it was. And I need up-to-date information really fast. So those are the three things that the 5G tried to address. Right now, it seems like the only practical one is the enhanced mobile broadband, which is fast access to higher bandwidth services. So you see, I don't know if you've seen like T-Mobile internet for $50 on TV. Like that. That's because they're using the higher frequency, higher bandwidth allocations of 5G to be able to provide a fixed wireless service because they have the bandwidth to do it. When they only had small amounts of bandwidth and lower frequencies. They weren't able to supply that much, enough capacity, if you will. To mix my communications terms, to be able to service like a whole neighborhood of people, with the small amount of bandwidth they had at the lower frequencies. But they have a lot at these higher frequencies, and 6G, maybe even they'll fold in satellites and everything else. So.
Wow. Interesting.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm sure I just half the people just turned off the podcast.
No, not at all. It's interesting stuff, and we take it for granted. We turn on our phone, or we turn on our Wi-Fi, and it just works, and we don't think about why it works or how it works. And geekazoids like you keep the infrastructure running, right, Big Jeff? So we need.
That's right. Well, Teresa Hallback's phone was a 2G phone, right? So.
Yes.
Right. So I thought that was very, and that was what I first kind of joined the case, because I thought there might be some things that I kind of I'm in the business of how you might find these things, especially as one interfering with a DoD system, or you might want to find one for other reasons in a DoD application.
Any other cases that you're following?
I am. I'm following. There's actually a case. I'm from Massachusetts, right? There's a case in Canton, Massachusetts, and her name is Karen Reed. And for those of you who are familiar with the Bambi Bennett case, do you know the Bambi Bennett case?
I grew up right in that area, so absolutely, Laurencia Bembenek.
Yep. So the question is, did the police frame Bambi, right, for killing the cop boyfriend? Mm-hmm. And this exact same case, the exact same thing in Massachusetts with this woman named Karen Reed, who supposedly according to the state, dropped her husband off. I'm not following it nearly as close as I followed the Teresa Hallback case, but she dropped her husband off, or her boyfriend. I'm not sure whether they're married or not. And she supposedly hit him with the car as she was doing the 3-point turn to turn around, and left him to die in the cold. To me, the story that the state is trying to patch together is just not very believable. He's going to this house party, right? She dropped him off at this house party that's full of cops, right? Because he's a cop and he's got cop friends. He's found dead after the party out in the cold. And the way that he came about his demise is she hit him with the car doing a 3-point turn. I'm not so sure, and so there's signs. I actually drove by some the other day that said "Free Karen Reed," and that trial's going on right now.
Doesn't that sound like the Ricky Hochstetler case that happened also in Manitowoc? It really sounds familiar. In the winter, in a storm, going to a police event, a party or something like that, and a hit and run.
Yeah, Ricky was just a teenager. Yeah, Ricky was a teenager on the way home, but there was a party, the Christmas party or something that the police were having, and it was snowy. He could have been hit by a snowplow, but there was a lot of, we actually interviewed, if you want to, you can go on to the Foul Play website and listen to the interview with, what's her first name? Is it Karen Hochstetler? I actually conducted that interview.
Oh, great!
So you could I think Dr. Silkman could provide us the link, or Zoe or somebody like that.
Cool.
But we, she was saying, as the police were searching, they wouldn't let any of the civilians, if you will, or the interested family help search the ditch right by her house for car parts. Which she found very fair. They were keeping everybody away, right? You couldn't, right? And it was very, very fishy. They can't get anything tested. I think they're trying to get some paint on one of the pieces that they found tested to see if they can match it. I think a garage of the that one of the cops owns. Is it the Hermans, maybe? was sort of right down the street from the house. And it was very possible he got struck by a snowplow, right? I'm not saying that. I don't know what was the cause, I don't know, but there was certainly some fishy behavior. And whenever they don't let information, if you don't have anything to hide, why do you keep on trying to hide stuff? That's a very good question to ask in a lot of these cases, and it just seemed like there was just too much they were trying to hide.
I
in the Huxtable case and in this one.
So many similarities that come up in cases, and I know we shouldn't compare too often because every case is different, but when you see similarities, it's hard to not. Well, I'll definitely have to check into that that Karen Reed trial. Let us know what happens with that one.
It's almost done. I think it's almost handed off to the jury, so it won't be long now.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll have to check into that one. Maybe there'll be a documentary that comes out about that. There was this case, and I mentioned it on a live recently, and that is it happened, I believe, in California, where law enforcement had tried to elicit a confession and successfully did elicit a confession of a guy who was accused of killing his father, only to find out that his father wasn't dead. And that one just settled for just shy of $1 million. They just settled the case. So, we have to hold people accountable. We have to hold, law enforcement accountable. It's easy to find the mistakes made, but, I got a comment on one of my videos today that I think it was jokingly they said that 95% of law enforcement gives 5% a bad name, and I think it's the opposite. I really do. I think 95% of law enforcement are there for the right reasons. I still think that our justice system, for the most part, even with its flaws, still functions at a high level. Most people, when you do something wrong, they get them. We only hear about these cases. There he is. There's Marley. We only hear about these cases because they are, worthy to talk about, right? They hit us in a place where we want to talk about it. We're interested, but all right, Big Jeff.
I think the tactics that are being used today are reprehensible.
Absolutely,
especially at the federal level, especially, and I assume this happens at the state level as well, where they're searching for evidence, not only on they have somebody they're interested in getting, and they start digging into people that are close to that person. They'll even not only those people but their family members as well. They'll get something on somebody's wife, they'll get something on somebody's kid, and they'll say, unless you confess to this crime, which you might not even commit it, right? Unless you confess to this crime, then we're gonna take this other action against somebody that you care about. And it's all but if you confess, we'll give you a complete immunity agreement. And all you have to do is say that you did this, whether you did or didn't. And I think people you'll find in some of these high profile cases that people are confessing to crimes that they didn't even commit because law enforcement is threatening them either with prosecution on their own actions, or prosecution on the actions of their family members, right. And the confession that they sign under penalty of perjury is actually a perjure itself because they did not commit. They did not indeed commit these crimes, but they just need it as leverage to go after the next person up the chain.
We talked about the Norfolk 4. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that case. Are you familiar with the Norfolk 4? That they got
Is
4 guys.
Fast?
The Norfolk 4 from they confessed to crimes they didn't commit. They threatened them with the death penalty and said, if you don't, confess, we're going to get you in the death penalty. So it's better to just confess. So they all admitted to it, and turns out not one of them was involved in it. And it's tragic to see that, and we gotta hold them accountable. We have to demand better police work. We have to demand, and I use the example of the medical field, and I think it's a fair analogy to compare the accuracy of result. We want to have accuracy in our convictions. Same in the medical field. We want to have accuracy in our outcomes, because people's lives are on the line in the medical field, just like people's lives are on the line in the Justice Department. So I think it's a fair analogy that we want to get that accuracy up 95% or more on our outcomes. Well, talking about Steven Avery specifically, I've always held the same. You've heard me say this how many times about Steven Avery. I mean, you've been there on recordings with me where I don't know what happened. I don't know. Most people don't know what happened. But one thing I can tell you is that he didn't get a fair trial. And that's the important part that I think people should remember about the Making a Murderer case. And, they had, after we finished our series, they had that other series that came out, Convicting a Murderer, and they highlighted what a bad dude he was. I think you bring up a really good point about, well, people don't like him, so he must be guilty. He did a bunch of bad stuff in his past, so he must be guilty. It's irrelevant. The relevance is everybody deserves a fair trial. Everybody needs to have. Otherwise, our system, like you said, can deteriorate. And we want to make sure that, even people who are guilty of crimes, if our prosecutors are not playing by the proper rules, then they should be released and they should get off. We need to make sure that we do it right, and we demand high accuracy in our outcomes. So that's how I feel about the Avery case. Is I'm not sure. I tend to think like you. It does go back to the 1985 case. I think it all stems from that. If you don't understand what happened in 1985 and how he was framed, you're not gonna. You're starting off from a place of inaccuracy, of naivete, I guess you'd say. You really have to.
Yes, that's the word I was thinking of.
Yeah, that 1985 and framing this guy for a rape he didn't commit plays into it. And if you don't understand that, then you can't understand where that next case went. And although I said I don't really know what happened, but when I finished watching Making a Murderer, whether it included everything or didn't include everything, I left it saying, I know one thing: he didn't get a fair trial, and everybody's entitled to a fair trial. And so I don't know if he could still receive a fair trial with the way evidence has been done and the public profile of it. But so my opinion has, even after doing the show with you for 2 years and all the evidence collected, there is no silver bullet that swayed me one way or the other. But I can tell you that he didn't get a fair trial, and he deserves a fair trial, and that's what we should be all aiming for.
Yeah,
that's just kind of how I feel about it.
We talked about iconic movies, right? I mean, one of the most iconic lines in movies is from the Star Wars movie, right? Princess Amidala. She says, "How does democracy fall? To thunderous applause."
To thunderous applause. Yeah, it's a great line. I think it's underappreciated, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Big Jeff,
next time.
Are you a UFO file or a UAP, as they call it? Do you follow any of that?
Yeah, I do. I have an open mind about it. I kind of do believe that, that it's not limited to Earth. That Earth is not the only place where there's where there's something. But at least right now, the physics of getting to another place is a little rough. Light only goes so fast. You can't go faster than that, at least as far as we know. So it's just hard. It is hard for me to believe that in the absence of something more demonstrable that you can realistically have like an galaxy kind of travel right now. The other thing is about UFO crashes. I mean, working for the DoD so many years, you only get so many crashes before they cancel the program. If there's been as many crashes, on Earth as some of the UAP files believe, then those programs have been canceled a long time ago. I mean, they don't have the same mindset as us humans when it comes to that interstellar travel. So yeah, but just because I don't understand the technology doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But you're gonna have to show me. So I guess, does that make me an agnostic?
I don't know.
The feasibility that so 100% feasible that they're there. Technological feat that I don't understand for them to get here.
Yeah, the distance of space is so vast that our brains can't really comprehend it. The distances between galaxies. I think is it 2.5 or 250 million? I think it's 2.5 million light years.
It's huge. It's a huge number. Yeah. And it'll take 5 years just to get to Mars. Let's put it that way, right? Just to get to Mars for the technology we have, it's going to take like 5 years.
Right. So 900 and let's see here, 10 million light years on average between galaxies. So
yeah,
if you can travel 10 million light years, now our galaxy is big. There's billions of stars in our own galaxy. But if you can travel at those distances, you would look at us the way that we would look, at a lower life form. But why would they want to communicate? They'd have no reason to communicate with us. Why would they? They would look at, even if they tried, it would be like trying to talk to an ape. Yeah, I guess we'd have to sit down and teach you sign language, or we'd have to learn. We'd have to. And so, I used to really be a believer in aliens, and I kind of ate that all up. And I don't know, not that long ago, I think I got frustrated and I said, let's look at it through the other lens. Let's completely flip it upside down and go, no, they're not real. This is all military, industrial complex partnerships,
propaganda. Just they haul out the aliens. So whenever something big's about to be discovered, they haul out the aliens.
Yeah, I mean, you could see why we would want to develop the technology. You could see why they keep it so quiet. You can see why they don't give answers. And if you look at the example of a UAP, I think it's called the Tic Tac. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah.
So the Tic Tac, when that was first recorded, it was recorded during a military training exercise, and I always found that really suspicious. That okay, if I was going to test my secret technology that no one was aware of, where's the safest place to test it? During a military. I have complete control over the entire area. I would test it there, and then I would see how my people react to it. How does my military react to seeing this? And it's in a controlled environment, and I get suspicious of that kind of stuff. So, they talk about the Men in Black or whatever. There's always people like, you said there was a crash like in Roswell or whatever. How do they know where the crash was? How did they get there so fast? You know what I mean? How are there people on the scene so quickly if they didn't know So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to not be a believer. I want to believe. I guess I'm like the poster on the X Files.
Right?
Yeah, I want to believe because I think it would be just so great for us as a civilization to understand our place. And we're not the big kids on the block that we think we are. We're not unique. But at the same time, I have trouble going that next step. Anyway.
No, I hear you. I think that's good. I mean, I think there are technologies that might work to show some of that most of this TikTok like stuff. The ones that are like picked up on radar, those are the ones I'm least believing on. I think you can spoof radars, but it's the ones that people see with their own eyes that are the most believable, to me anyway. But where's the pictures? A lot of pictures you see on radar. Right?
Neil deGrasse Tyson has kind of has made this claim a couple times, and I've heard a couple other skeptics, if you would say this, that we've never had more cameras on the planet. This year alone, more pictures have been taken this year alone than all the pictures that had ever been taken previously, in the previous 100 years or something like that, right? Everybody has a camera phone now. Everybody has that. And so anyway, I just thought I'd pick your brain on it. We've never really talked about it. I just threw it out there. Great catching up with you. Let's talk again soon. Let us know about how retirement is going, and it's been great catching up with you.
Yeah, I'm interested in joining you guys on the documentary club. That I definitely enjoy watching documentaries. I'm a history buff. I'm a true crime fan, as obviously, and a lot of the fictional stuff I don't enjoy so much, as it's not nearly as jaw dropping as some of the things that happen in real life, which is why I enjoy the documentaries. So maybe so. It's been really great catching up with you. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an interview with Big Jeff. Hope that we see you again. Thank you guys for out there in chat for checking us out. Like and subscribe. Check out Documentary Club and check out some of the other things that I'm doing on the channel. Thank you guys so much for joining. And that's it for today. We will see you on the next one.